crossroads, that's it. I mean, you have to look at it and say, this is it. This is where I'm going. This is what I'm doing. And it pays off. And it did pay off. Because if it didn't pay off, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah, I put all the money in a savings account. You know, what do I need it for? You know, I'm happy. Most of the time.
The money, you know, not bad. Excuse me. Need a little more.
It's not about the money, though. It's about the game. The principles. It was always about the principles.
There's not enough chocolate. Fame, fortune, yeah, I mean, these are parts of life, but you don't want it to blur your focus. You can't think about the money, you know? You can't do it for the money. I mean, you don't want to say, hey, I'm rich, I'll take my clothes off in public. I mean, you only make that mistake once anyway.
No, I wouldn't have given this up for anything. I mean that. I can't. I mean, something like this, you can't go back after that. You could offer me anything. I would say no. And I mean that. Anything. I wouldn't give this up. Even if you were to offer me everything exactly the same as it was, except for 3 times the money, I'd say no. Well, no, wait, I wouldn't say that. No, that would be stupid. Yeah. I wouldn't. No, I would say yes to that.
800 years ago, the Jewish people mourned the death of Rabbi Moses Maimonides, the illustrious Rambam. It was Maimonides who cut the precious diamond known as the 13 roots of the Jewish creed. During this octocentennial year, a group of enterprising university students turned to a mysterious etching from the Cairo Geniza to create a mind-bending challenge of faith for the 21st century. The name of the game, Credo 13.
Welcome to Credo 13. I'm Michael Kegel. The 11th root belief of the Maimonidean Creed is that ultimate reward awaits us in heaven, assuming we get there.
Principle number 11
is reward and punishment.
It rewards those who do good.
It's crime and punishment as well. It's reward and punishment.
Why is reward and punishment a fundamental principle?
What does it mean, reward and punishment?
Basically, it just means observing Torah matters.
It's as basic as if you try to fly an airplane without having learned properly, you'll kill yourself.
There are consequences to our actions.
If you don't follow God's blueprint, bad things happen.
You will have good results if you do mitzvot, and you'll have negative results if you don't do mitzvot.
Justice dictates reward and punishment, and the just God could not allow evil to go unpunished, cannot allow goodness to go unrewarded.
From a moral point of view, moral action is not meaningful unless there's some kind of response.
That response we call reward and punishment.
So I think this is just a way of asserting that God is just and good.
Now, there is controversy over what is meant by reward and punishment.
There have been disputes over what reward and punishment means, and disputes among Maimonidean interpreters. Is it naturalistic?
Some people try to say that Rama basically perceives reward and punishment based upon statements in his Guide to the Perplexed. Reward and punishment is the natural outcome of intellectual speculation and thought about God.
Maimonides says that if you connect yourself to God really well, you can walk through a battlefield and not be hurt. You'll have such providence. That's like a reward, as it were. Nothing can touch you.
In the Rambam, there's probably a very strong sense that a human life properly lived ought to issue forth in an ultimate relationship with God, and that's what immortality is about. And that is, in effect, a natural outcome of the kind of life you lived here.
If you read the Mishnah Torah, it seems as if he follows a traditional approach, that God judges you and rewards you or punishes you. If you read his other writings, his more philosophical writings, it's much more naturalistic.
But there is a concept of reward and punishment, that there are consequences to this behavior. And those consequences may be natural and inherent.
In the Erie terms of a result. There's a result for doing good, a positive result.
or the consequences may be external, what God does. But that is fundamental in terms of understanding the value of Torah.
So it comes out that the entire scheme of existence is really based on the principle of reward and punishment.
The moral dimension is an essential aspect of the created world.
It's reward and punishment that justifies creation in the very first place.
A world without consequences is an inconsequential world. If in our Credo drama number 11, our players seem to be playing a very complicated round, it's because they're faking it. If we didn't know better, we might think the whole Credo thing were a hoax.
Did you guys hear about this new video game?
The downloadable one?
I didn't hear about it. It's really popular.
Men and women.
Have you tried it?
I heard about it.
I
heard good things.
You really liked it.
Oh, is it one of those new placebo games?
Yeah, one of those. They're all over the place. Yeah, everyone I know is playing them.
What is it?
It's a game. What's so special about it? There's no rules.
You can do whatever you want.
Is that fun?
You would think so.
Everyone else does too.
There are no rules.
No repercussions?
No consequences. How do you win?
Luck. Pure luck? Yeah.
The thing about placebo games is that you're not really playing.
You're not even playing? Nope. They're all pre-recorded.
People find it relaxing and exciting at the same
I like
time.
the classic video games.
Yes, but there's a catch.
Of course, you can make a mistake. Which is why so many people are turning to placebo games.
Yeah, they're so refreshing.
But it's a deception.
Of course.
How does a 12th century creed become a challenge of faith for the 21st century? This is Credo 13. The 11th principle of Maimonides' creed. There is an ultimate reward and punishment.
If you're to take reward and punishment on the most literal level, it would be that the reason we keep the commandments of God is because we want some kind of payoff. And the reason that we do not do the commandments is we don't want to get spanked. Okay.
So, for example, a person eats an ice cream cone because he likes the ice cream and likes the experience itself. The second situation, a person does exercise because he wants to be fit. So that's the second type of consequence. It's a direct consequence of the other of the behavior. Third possibility is a person picks up garbage in the park, right? Basically because, or collects tickets at a movie theater because someone's giving a paycheck for him to stand there and collect tickets. He doesn't enjoy the behavior, and the behavior doesn't have any inherent benefit from it, but he likes the paycheck. A lot of people look at reward and punishment as only the third consequence, right? That basically somehow God's going to give you this big paycheck.
As Maimonides pointed out, that is very appropriate if we're talking about children. But if we're dealing with adults, aren't we supposed to be doing things for their own sake? Aren't we supposed to be avoiding certain things because they're inherently bad?
Sofer wrote somewhere that if we're up to him, he doesn't know if he would count reward and punishment as Ikrei because if you're committed to the Torah, you obey the Torah no matter what.
We have to escape the notion that we have a lien on God, that we're deserving of certain things, and that we have a right to have certain things. God gave us a privilege to exist, to live, to breathe, to enjoy. Reward is another chesed of Hashem. For abusing that opportunity, as the Malbim says, that's how we get punished.
Even if we weren't just concerned about people being afraid, can't murder somebody because God will punish me, it tells us something very important about God as well.
We have to understand that it makes a difference to God how we live and what we do. God cares.
We say to a child, for example, eat your dinner and then I'll give you some candy. Are they eating their dinner to get the candy only? Are they also eating their dinner because they want to please you? In other words, they want to basically get your love. And you've told them that you got to kind of work with me.
Mishnah Pirkei Avos says, Schar mitzvah mitzvah. It's a mitzvah to make Hashem want to give us reward. It's a mitzvah to ingratiate ourselves to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to want to give us all the toys in the world and all the great things that we want. Hashem gets so much nachas to give us rewards and give us blessing. Hashem gets so much pleasure of giving us pleasure. See, depriving Hashem of that. That is the sin of sin.
So it isn't just that we have to have reward and punishment in order to keep people in line. The entire purpose of creation is really a scheme of reward and punishment. It was created in order for God to have the opportunity to bestow His kindness, His reward upon man.
In that sense, we do the mitzvot because we want to please God. We want to have a covenantal relationship with God.
Hashem is anxious. He's almost invisibly blessing and begging us, please, just do the right things. You open the Torah, and the Torah is going to open up this. Open your Sefer Torah, open up your Chumash, open up your Gemara. Take out your money, give tzedakah. Just visit a sick person so I can do something. Shabbos, rest on Shabbos, do something, and be Mekadeh Shabbos, sanctify Shabbos. I'm anxious. And we say, you know what? I'm going to the beach. I'm going to the beach at Shabbos. So you robbed Hashem of the opportunity to bless you.
I once won a computer. A whole computer? And a printer. I won a trip to Hawaii. I once won a year's supply of ice cream. I never won anything. You must have won something. No. What about that car you used to drive? I earned that car. How did you earn that? I filled out a ballot at the car dealership.
You mean you entered the contest?
No, I filled out a form.
But you didn't do anything to get the car.
I filled out the entire form.
Too indirect.
But you never filled out a ballot. No.
And you didn't win a car.
That's true.
So I earned that car.
Well, what's the best thing you've ever earned?
I once won an A on a math test.
Now you earned that.
No, I won that.
You were clearly graded on your ability. No, I won it. That's just ridiculous.
Although Sam has a rather unorthodox notion of what winning means, she's just a few moves away from winning the jackpot. For upon close inspection, we can see the face of eternity taking shape, a structure successfully constructed only once before by an Israeli Credo master, Olam Netzach. And Maimonides, what would he consider to be the great jackpot of life?
He says the greatest reward is the world to come.
The true reward is the world to come.
The greatest punishment is karet.
The ultimate punishment is being cut off from this realm. What do you call it? The punishment of karet.
Karet, the soul dies. Just done. It's like no different than like a squirrel dies. That's over.
There's no entitlement for existence to say that we deserve Olam Haba. Hashem gave you a gift called Olam Haba. That's a gift of living, right? Just living. Now we live. Hashem tells you there's a manual how to live. But you know what? I'll give you an incentive. I'm giving you a beautiful life. You have an unbelievable life to live. I have no gain from it, but I love to give people. I love to give someone something. I'm going to give you Olam Haba, even though you shouldn't. I mean, what payment? I created you. Like, why should I have to pay you anything?
In the mystical tradition, the very purpose of creation was that God wanted to create a world in which He could bestow His kindness upon created beings. That kindness, of course, is the bliss of the world to come.
Now, the Olam Haba for Maimonides does not mean a world that is yet to come in a temporal kind of sense.
Whereas the Talmud says the righteous dwell with their crowns on their heads, and they derive pleasure from the radiance of the divine presence.
The Rambam clearly says that the world to come is the world beyond. It's this transcendent realm.
When you live a certain life, at the end of it, your soul naturally moves into that sphere.
So let's say, concrete example, there are Rishonim who believe that animals get rewarded. But I'm scoffed at that. The dog, just because the dog had some bad breaks, you tell the dog, well, you get paid for it. That's not, for the Rambam, that was ridiculous.
Here again, one has to think, whenever one thinks of the other world, one has to think very metaphorically and very imaginatively. Because if you try to draw too exact a picture, it gets ridiculous.
What is the dog going to do? Dog go to Habas. What is the dog going to do? Dog will sit in the Rav Shir. Rav can't say Pshat in Tosfot, so dog can't read Balmar and Muhammad. So what's the point of it?
In other words, a dog in heaven would die a second time of utter boredom. As Sam comes even closer to the jackpot, she waxes philosophical on the very value of winning.
I hate intramurals.
Because you don't have running shoes?
No, because in intramurals they don't keep score.
They don't keep score?
I know. They say it's more fun.
Not to keep score?
I know they say it's more sportsmanlike.
Not to keep
That's
score?
what I said.
Because it doesn't score.
Because without giving every move a resulting value.
You can play the game more purely.
For its own sake.
And the winner isn't the team with the higher score.
It's the team who put more into the game.
Which is pathetic.
Isn't the goal to try to win?
That's what I said.
Winning and losing are necessary evils of professional sports.
The ideal would be a system that could abandon wins and losses.
That's impossible.
Isn't the game about getting ahead?
And you get ahead by scoring more. And the only way to do that is to keep score. The game takes care of itself. But if you sweat, you deserve recognition. Vito.
If I do something because I think it's the right thing, I practice justice, which is what it commands me to do. And that justice leads to either my being killed, let's say.
You haven't had such a good life, you die, and so what?
Or that justice accomplishes nothing.
There's no such thing as a casino in which everyone wins.
Would I really do it?
Right. What you're asking me is, would I still opt for virtue? Would I be told that we are simply matter doomed to oblivion? As a romantic gesture. In other words, it would no longer be an objective moral decision.
Kant understood that very well. They just see that they really, at the end of the day, the world's no different than in the beginning, if not worse, and that all their efforts, at least, seem to be in vain.
In Kant, there's a great deal of tension here, because on the one hand, Kant is saying that the motive for moral action has absolutely nothing to do with the hope for reward.
The ideal motivation for observing the Torah is not fear of punishment or anticipation of reward. But we are told that we should observe the Torah for its own sake.
There's a phrase that the rabbis use, schar mitzvah mitzvah. The reward of a mitzvah is a chance to do another mitzvah.
The reward of the mitzvah is the mitzvah itself, because it has created certain benefit for you, it's changed you, it's affected you, become a better person.
Meaning, if you live a certain kind of life, the virtue is to a large extent its own reward.
Right. In other words, what you're saying is that the universe could be deaf, dumb, and blind, but we would still be summoned to the moral life, and having concluded it, finished. Doesn't work for me.
Which is the very reason Immanuel Kant, or Kant, did not make virtue its own reward. To repeat.
On the one hand, Kant is saying that the motive for moral action has absolutely nothing to do with the hope for reward. On the other hand, Kant thought that at the level of practical reason, one of the postulates of practical reason would be immortality.
Which means that when one keeps the commandments, this has some kind of an effect in this transcendent realm of which we will only be fully aware after our death.
Because he believed that ultimately people have to reach that point where there is a harmony of the correspondence of virtue and happiness.
Without that, you find that, for example, many moral idealists, without that cosmic dimension, a theological dimension, if you will, become disillusioned and cynics.
Either there is an afterlife and a just, benevolent God, or we are in one heck of a horrible, horrible situation.
We want our keeping of the commandments to have some ultimate effect, and we want our breaking of the commandments to require us to, in effect, answer up.
Since we just don't see that happening right now, you posit immortality as an ideal where this is going to happen.
Since I do feel and intuit a moral dimension to life and reality, that's why I scream that there must be an afterlife.
This world is not so wonderfully blissful that it justifies creation.
Because so much virtue seems to go unrewarded, and so much evil seems to go unpunished. So unless we say with Father Zosima and Dostoevsky there that there's a heaven where it's all going to be straightened out, otherwise it's C.S. Lewis said when his wife died, he said it's just a big mess. And it is, it's a big mess. In this world, there's a big mess, and there's got to be some later world where it's going to be straightened out.
Something like Stalin died in bed. Maybe he was poisoned, maybe he wasn't, I don't know. But he seems to have lived a full life. Mao Tse, these were monsters, absolute monsters. I would like to believe, unfortunately the Torah provides me with the means to do so, that in the end they will be answerable to God, and that they will not benefit from their evil, nor will their evil be ultimately triumphant, that they will lose at the cosmic level.
I don't see the ghetto mother in Washington Heights or Harlem bringing up her children to be good and working a zillion hours a day as some washerwoman and having her kids defy everything they see on the streets and having her die an early death from tuberculosis, and that be the end of her story.
There are clearly times when keeping the commandments is a pleasurable experience. There are times when it's not a pleasurable experience. And one would like to think that perhaps there was pleasure and enjoyment that was postponed.
Would I not have this sense that there is the moral, the good, and the just, I'd say, what the heck, so we're up the creek, that's all. But it's this other sense that I have, which leads me to say and to conclude that it just cannot be.
Now, is that wishful thinking? Sure. Is the Torah the product of human wishful thinking? No. At least I don't believe so. So therefore I have reason to believe that, or reason to hope for that.
Too many hundreds of thousands and millions of people have passed through this veil of tears and led lives of sacrificial virtue and not been rewarded in this world in any way. It's just doesn't work for me.
Keep building the faith with Credo 13. Join us next week for the next root belief of the Maimonidean Creed. The Messiah will come.